Let's go. Go ahead, how's it going? How's it going? How's it going? Yeah, this is incredible. How incredible is this? Ah, no way. That's it. Let's go, guys. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Division 8 Contest, the greatest show on air. My name is Shady Barlow, I'll be your host for today. Let's welcome all of your contestants. Let's welcome all of your officials. Welcome all of your TEDx speakers. And of course, the most importantly, welcome to each and every single one of you today here at the Division 8 Contest. Guys, sit down, take a seat, take a seat, take a seat. If you didn't have a coffee now, obviously you feel it now, don't you? Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is J.D. Barnum. It's my pleasure to be the host of the greatest show on earth. 3 incredible contests, 2 incredible TEDx speakers, an incredibly and immersive round of table topics, and of course something, ladies and gentlemen, that will never, and I repeat, never be done again in Division N history. And you will all be witness to that. Woo! Most important part, no one said woo. So, ladies and gentlemen, as I say, this contest today would not be possible without each and every one of you here. But also, as well, I want to say a quick shout out to every single club who sponsored this contest and everything that you will see before you today. So I want to give a shout out to Area 50 and especially Headingley and White Rose. Area 21, Sheffield and Doncaster. Area 31, Tyne, of course, ourselves. Yeah, go on. And Area 48, Salford speakers, orators, and of course, Preston. Thank you all for being here, and of course, thank you to every one of them clubs as well. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I have been a Toastmaster for 7 years. It's been an incredible experience. I've seen the club grow from strength to strength. You're probably wondering, wow, he's not old enough to be here for 7 years. But ladies and gentlemen, Toastmasters where leaders are made, but also as a club, we believe that in ourselves and our own values. Because today, here, just today, we've got 6 immediate past presidents of the club here to support each and every one of you within speaking or of course presenting or even just being here. So it really does go to show what Liverpool is all made about. But it didn't start like that. It started a lot more humble. It started with the vision of one person to bring Toastmasters and of course leadership within the city. And it's not my story to tell, but the man is here today. So ladies and gentlemen, I'm not going to give a big intro because he didn't want one, but the man, the myth, the legend, Liam McCowan for the founders. Welcome. You okay?
My name's Liam McCowan. I don't like the word founder because it makes me feel a little bit embarrassed about stuff like that, but I have the honour of being one of the people who started Liverpool City Toastmasters, and I wanted to just say a few words about that because they've told me I've got to, basically. Now, the 14th of March, 1952 is actually a pivotal moment in Liverpool City Toastmasters, because on that day, Michael McCowan was born. Michael's my dad. It's his birthday today, which is the reason why I can't hang around with you all day, because I've got to take him for copious amounts of Guinness in a very short while. But my dad taught, like many of us will say, our parents taught us lots of stuff, and my dad taught me lots of things when I was young. And one of the things he always taught me was, if you're on time, then you're 5 minutes late. My dad used to work on the tarmac, which is civil engineering for the posh people today. It was just on the tarmac. Boys from the Black Stuff style, if you remember Yos Hughes. And he used to go to work about 7 o'clock in the morning, and he'd come in about 7 o'clock at night. He used to stink of diesel, and he used to stink of Guinness. And them smells are really, really fond memories for me, especially when he was on the couch stinking of both of them, and the coins were falling out of his pockets that me and my brother would take and go and buy some sweets. But he used to say to me all the time that if you're on time, then you're 10 minutes late. But he was wrong about that one, and I'm going to tell you the reason why, and I'm going to try and link it into the reason why we started Liverpool City Toastmasters. So about 8 years ago, I was more like 15 minutes late for a networking event in Daresbury Science Park. And I was just trying to get there, trying to keep under the speed limits and maybe not go through too many red lights. And I finally got there. The car park was chocker, couldn't find a space. Driving around, I spotted one, and then this car came round the corner. And it went to get in. I was like, my dad also told me to be a gentleman. Go on, please do go in there. I will go and find somewhere else. And I drove round the corner, found somewhere else. And a young lady who was in that car, who got out the car, waited for me because she obviously knew I was a bit flustered, a bit late, and also going to the same event. And her name was Angela Scott. And Angela told me she was waiting for me because she didn't want me to go in on my own, which was lovely. And then when we were on the way over, she told me, I said, what are you coming for? I was doing that networking thing. And she said, oh, I'm coming to this thing and I want to try and find some people who might want to come along to my Toastmasters thing. And I was like, that's weird. Why does everyone want to do that thing at weddings? Why would anyone want to do that kind of stuff? And we had a chat and she told me what it was about. And then she invited me along to Warrington Toastmasters. And I went along for the first time and I was really nervous, like I'm sure we all are when we first go Toastmastering. I still get nervous when I stand up most of the time when I speak in front of people. But they asked a question in table topics which I thought was horrifying. Not the question itself, just the idea of getting asked a question in front of strangers. And he asked a question and I had no clue what to say to the answer, so I just spoke about my dogs for about 2 minutes. I can't remember what the question was, but I just told them the names of my dogs. And at the end of the round of of table topics, they shouted my name out and brought me up to the front and gave me a little ribbon. And thank you. And from then, I was absolutely hooked. The challenge was for me that it was in Warrington, which is a lovely place if anyone from Warrington's in, by the way. But because it was on 7 till 9, I would be in work all day. Then I'd go there, then I'd finish at 9 o'clock, and then I'd try and get home, and I wouldn't be home till about 10 o'clock. And my missus and my dogs were missing me. And I kept on saying to them, we could do with something like this in Liverpool. It'd be really good if we had something like this in Liverpool. Couldn't we just get something like this in Liverpool? And he said, yeah, we will. We've got someone looking at it. We're going to do it and stuff like that. And I'm a bit of a doer, so I just said, right, I'm going to go and find a space and I'm going to do some stuff and we're going to get some people in. And that's kind of where it came from. And the reason I say that is people often say, you know, sliding doors moments. It was a proper sliding door moment for me, for getting involved in Toastmasters, but also for loads of people who've been in this room. Now, you might be sat here anyway, in another reality that this happened, but the lots of people who've been and learned and grown maybe wouldn't have happened if I had just not listened to my dad that one time and been a little bit late to get to that event and spoken and met with Angela. Now, since then, we've had loads of really good stuff happening at Liverpool City Toastmasters, and we've had some really rubbish times as well. Obviously, COVID was a bit crap because that public speaking thing doesn't quite work the same online. And I know we'll say it does, but it doesn't, because you do need that fear when you're standing in front of people. You don't quite get that when your missus is in the background, when you're online trying to ask you what you want for your tea. We had some really good people who've helped us, and Liz is here, who I've seen before. Liz used to come in the early days from like Newcastle to the Thursday night in Liverpool to help us out. There was a big chap who's from Warrington, whose name I always forget, who used to come and give us loads of really good feedback. Obviously, Angela was there. John McFadgen was really great when we first started. And there's been literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people who've come through. Obviously, the guys did a really good job at the Novotel when they did the international speech thing over there recently in the last couple of years. And it's just magic to see it today, because this is very different than some of the meetings we had early on. Because we did have one meeting, maybe about 3 months in, and there was 4 of us. And it was a tough gig. It was a tough gig because we all had to be speakers and evaluators and table topics masters and stuff like that. And a lot of that stuff happened in the early days. I don't get to come to Toastmasters as much as I'd like to anymore, because lots of work projects always keep me busy. But I send people here all the time and they always say the same thing. Wasn't that lovely? Wasn't it great? Who's that crazy guy with the orange beard? All of those kind of things that they always say to me all of the time. But it's just wonderful to see so many people here and doing some really good stuff. I want to thank all of you. I mentioned there was a couple of guys from, I think it was Doncaster they said before, on the committee. Everyone who's done committee stuff at any kind of Toastmasters, anyone who's gone to Toastmasters, thank you so much, because you don't understand the difference that you're making in people's lives. I've seen some great people come into Toastmasters who were really timid and didn't want to speak, and then I've seen them in the street and they've told me for 15 minutes all of these things they've been really doing, and it's just magic to see that kind of stuff. I want to finish on one little story. There was a lady called Dorothy who came in the very early days that we were doing this, Ish's mum. And she was doing her first speech and she said to me, Leon, would you please evaluate my speech? I was like, oh God, I don't know what I'm doing here. It was very early days, but I did. And then about 2 years ago, so maybe 5 years afterwards, she was going back to Kenya in her hometown and she dropped me a message and said, Leon, I'm doing my final speech at Toastmasters before I go back home. Would you please come and evaluate me? And it was a really lovely moment for me to see that full circle of what's happened and the things that's done. And we still keep in touch. I've got allotments. She's got allotments in Kenya. We show each other pictures of our vegetables and stuff that's growing all the time. And the friendships and stuff that you can build in this kind of stuff's magic. But I do want to definitely say thank you to everybody who's ever been to a Toastmasters event, because someone who didn't think they were good enough to do this thing left that room thinking they might just have a chance. I want you to have a wonderful day. Thanks so much for coming along. Please don't clap right now because I get embarrassed about that kind of stuff. I want you to have a wonderful day. I'm really sorry I can't stay, but thanks so much. Thanks to everyone from Liverpool City Toastmasters who's taken on this crazy little idea that we had about doing something in Liverpool and grown it to lunatics who are running around with canes, but also to the stuff that all of you people have travelled so far to come in. So thanks very much, and I hope you have a wonderful day.
Our next act is both an Oxford and a Cambridge graduate. He's a crafted communicator, a serially successful, socially spirited entrepreneur building bold business in diversity, dialogue, and diplomacy. He is the director of a social impact consultancy, a successful and skillful storyteller, a two-time TEDx speaker, and a passionate professor of modern languages. But many know him by his mythical moniker instead, the Language Conjurer. The man who makes words whirl and wits weave and whole worlds connect. So with his speech entitled 7,000 Ships Rising on the Tide, Turning Words into Worlds, I bring you two-time TEDx speaker, serial entrepreneur, linguist, published author, and of course, our friend, Tim F. Nash. Yes, sir.
Wow, that is just slightly intimidating an introduction. What a fantastic day. Well done, those contestants. That was just brilliant. I loved each of those presentations. Thank you so much. Great job. Well, come back to that in a moment. It's kind of like a conjuring wand, isn't it? Do you know what word they used when they translated Harry Potter into French for a wand? It was a baguette. Isn't that fantastic? Can you imagine Harry and his friends transforming one thing into another with a breadstick? That's just fantastic, isn't it? But a chopstick will have to do for me. The thing is, what we're here to talk about is how we take something ordinary, like our words, or even this chopstick, and we turn it into something wondrous. And of course, the secret is very simple. It's just a matter of being able to see something from more than one perspective. Imagine you've got 6 blocks. And from above, you turn each of them on a slight angle and you put them into 2 rows like this, 4 and 2. If you now look at those blocks from the front, you'll see there are only 5. But if you come to one side and you look from a slight angle, you'll see there are 6. If you now put letters on those blocks, from the front, you'll see words. But from the side, you'll see worlds. What's the difference? What is it that turns words into worlds? Just a shift in perspective. A shift in perspective that reveals the missing L. Oh, my slides have changed. Oh dear, never mind. The missing L in worlds, that's supposed to say, is languages. I wonder whether you know that, oh dear, the colours are all gone. I'm so sorry. We're going to go without this. I wonder whether you know that in the north of England, there are more than 200 languages spoken. In a single primary school, you might find 50 represented. In one classroom, you may have more than a dozen. But where are they? I know we have a wealth of languages here in this room. Do they have any relevance to us as we try and hone our skills as speakers of just one language, English? I want to suggest they do. You see, Toastmasters are experts at crafting words. But for a few moments, let me take you on a magical mystery tour through the very building blocks of our trade, which is language. But that missing L and this tour begins here in Liverpool. On the banks of the River Mersey. I wonder whether you know that Mersey is an Old English word. It means border, because the river was the border between the Kingdom of Northumbria and the Kingdom of Mercia. It's the traditional border between Lancashire and Cheshire. And of course, it's the border between the land and the sea. So we stand here today in this place at multiple borders. Or are they gateways? Because a border at the end of one kingdom, county, or terrain is also the entry point into the next. And the thing is, all that it takes to change a border into a gateway is a shift in perspective. Along this Mersey River, the water level can rise and fall up to 10 meters twice a day. That makes this river a pretty scary place to navigate. But just off to the side is an inlet where the water slows down enough that the mud could start to silt up. This sludgy, slow water creek allowed ships to come and dock safely. until the tide rose again and carried them on. And what did people call this muddy pool? In their language, they called it Liverpool, because Liver meant mud. What is it that turns a muddy creek into a safe haven? You're with me now, right? A shift in perspective. That's all it takes. Are you seeing now how just two words in another language, in this case Old English, and the words mercy and liver, just two words can begin to shift our perspective so that we look at things slightly differently. So that missing L stands also for looking. And as we turn away from the docks and we look up, what we see is an enormous gateway, isn't it? It's actually the largest gateway outside of China. And the fact that it's Chinese is significant. Let me explain. In English, we use measure words for things that we can't count. So we can count, like water. So we have a drop of water, a cup of water, a bucket of water. But in Chinese, we use measure words even for things that we can count. So for example, long, thin things like roads and rivers and dragons. Well, we talk about them in strips. So we don't say there are 4 roads, we say there are 4 strips of road. What would you choose as the measure word for languages? The Chinese chose the word gateway. So if I ask you in Chinese, how many languages do you speak? I say, 你会几门语言? Which means, how many gateways of languages do you speak? Because other languages are gateways for us to be able to look at things from a different perspective. Because our own view is limited. I mean, you can't even see your own head. So that missing L might indeed also be limits. Because we tend to think of languages as like a massive spreadsheet. As if in the first column you've got things like a rose, water, mountain, love, whatever it is, the elements of reality. And then in the other columns, what you've got is the different labels that different languages assign to each of those elements. Trouble is, that's not how language works. Let me explain. Oh, this isn't going to work either. That's supposed to be a dark background. The Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist Ed Yong says this: Earth teems with sights and textures, sounds and vibrations, smells and tastes, electric and magnetic fields. But every animal can only tap into a small fraction of reality's fullness. Each animal is enclosed within its own unique sensory bubble, perceiving but a tiny sliver of an immense world. Isn't that a fantastic quote? Well, from the limited amount of data that we detect, we select certain pieces. And then we try and interpret those pieces. And on the basis of our interpretation, we act This whole process is shaped by language and limited by it. To the extent that the great German writer Goethe said, "Wer fremden Sprachen nicht kennt, weiß nichts von seiner eigenen," which means if you don't know any foreign languages, you don't even know your own. Let me give you 3 examples to illustrate the point. First of all, color. The electromagnetic spectrum is huge, but we as human beings can only detect a very small part of it, the light spectrum, with our eyes. But even that small slither of that immense world, as Jung put it, has an infinite number of colors in it. And yet, what do our brains do? Breaks that infinity down into 7 categories: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. Infinity into 7. But you know what? The categories that our brain breaks that infinity down to is shaped by the language we use. Here's an example. If we zoom into part of the spectrum, we might here call this 2 colors, green on the left and blue on the right. But in Vietnamese, this is 1 color, Shan. And these are just different hues of that 1 color. What does that do when you now look at green trees against a blue sky? How does that now look different to you? Or let's take 3 words around writing here. We have a word like writer, book, library. They don't look anything like each other. They don't sound anything like each other. Nothing about these words suggests that there's any connection between them. Right? But in Arabic, these words are katib, kitab, and maktaba. They all contain the letters k, t, p. It's as if these 3 things are the same substance, just in 3 different forms. Isn't that beautiful? Or let's take a sign like this. In English, to wait sounds like a wait. It's the same sound. So when I see a sign like this, oh, my heart sinks. I'm picturing a cold, soulless room in which to tolerate a burden. But in Portuguese, this would be the sala de espera. That sounds like a space in which you can breathe, and you can dream, and you can aspire, and you can look forward with great expectation to what's coming next. Just a shift in perspective. And where did I get it? By listening to what somebody else calls it, to finding out what they see, and working out where the limits are in what I had seen before then. So in our tour today, we have listened in, I don't know whether you've been counting, on 12 words. That's all. In 9 different languages. Not really very many, considering that the north of England has at least 200 represented. And yet already, haven't you seen how those dozen words in different languages act as gateways through which we can get a different perspective? And that, as speakers, is what we need to do. If we want our speeches to stand out, we've got to find a different angle on what's in front of us all. And the other thing is that as the audiences that we speak to become more and more diverse, especially if some of you guys end up on a global stage, we need to remember that the audience we're speaking to is not a blank canvas. And they're carrying all sorts of different languages in their heads, which means all sorts of different perspectives. And what seems obvious to you may not seem obvious to them, and vice versa. So if we want our speech to land better with a broader audience, we're going to have to learn to shift perspective. And here's the amazing news. We've been talking from 9 languages today, but humanity as a whole has over 7,000 languages. Say what? They're all resources for us that we can listen in on, because the people around us are carrying a multitude of languages. And with AI, we can go searching and asking actively, how would you say this in another language? And what does that mean literally? And what would that word be connected to in that language? That is a resource that we all have available to us today that as speakers we didn't have when Liverpool City Toastmasters was first conceived. It's a resource that we all have to enjoy as speakers. And it reminds me of this very city. When ships from all over the world would come in, languages are like 7,000 ships full of words which carry whole worlds. And all we have to do, like this city, is slow down enough, give them enough of a welcome that they find safe haven, even if it's only for a few hours or a few days, or even a few moments, where the Swedish traveller, the Irish labourer, the Chinese sailor can meet and interact with each other, can exchange with each other, can be shaped by each other, as they look for the rising tide that will take them out in their respective directions to new worlds. 7,000 ships rising on the tide. But when they come in to dock, when we give them space and safe harbour, when we listen in, when we look, we can learn from each other to go beyond our own limits, to grow and to make better connections with a wider audience. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our very brief tour today. If you find it interesting, you might also find how to turn barriers into gateways interesting if you want to look it up. If you have questions about what I've said today, you have ways, I'd love to hear from you. But we have still a few minutes, I think. I'd love some questions if there are any in your mind. We've got a bit of time before we break for coffee.
What's your favorite
Oh,
language?
I love it. That's a great question. I think my favorite language, the answer to that question is like, what's your favorite food? To me, it's all of them. What I can't cope with is only one cuisine. If I have to eat the same thing every day, I don't care how delicious it is on day 1. By day 7, no thank you, I want something else. And that's how I feel about language. I get the most buzz out of languages that are the most different to the languages that I know. So for me, English and Chinese are opposite ends of the spectrum. That's a particularly rich source for me, is comparing and contrasting languages that are very different from one another. But as you've seen, actually languages that are quite close, that I thought maybe I don't have an awful lot to learn from, actually turns out I do. Let me give you an example. I have taught French in the past, and every time I taught French, teach numbers to a bunch of 11-year-olds, I get this. We go up the numbers and we get to 60, we get 60, and then I have to tell them there is no word for 70. 70 is 60 plus 10. The immediate response from the class? That's stupid, sir. I say, is it? Why is it stupid? It obviously is. Where's 100 at? I'm like, okay, what time is it? How many minutes are there in an hour? How many seconds are there in a minute? Why aren't there 100? That's stupid, sir. So yes, it is, right? Because 100 doesn't work with circles. So 60 is sensible if you're thinking in circles. If you're thinking 10 by 10 in squares, well, then 100's sensible. So kids, which is sensible, circles or squares? You know what they're saying? That's stupid, sir. Yes, it is. What do we need? We need circles and squares. What do we need? We need French and English. Yes, we do. That's my answer to your question. One more? Yes.
Do you think it's possible, as the world becomes more connected, that it would be possible for all languages to be homogenized into one, so that we all understand each other?
2 minutes after this one, just let you know.
That's a great question. It feels like, yes, please, wouldn't that be so much easier? And we would be so much richer. But you know, I said one of those missing L's, or the missing L, one of the things it stands for is limits. We don't like to admit it, but we are all limited. And I think that the conclusion that I'm coming to is, instead of me trying to carry all of these different worlds myself, why don't I let everybody carry their own world? And my job is to try and think more communally, to try and think more in terms of community, to be inviting alternative perspectives rather than trying to hold all of the perspectives by myself. If you want to put it in another visual way, I'd say that the solution is not just to have one person standing on the stage. The solution is to have a circle of people all holding hands and sharing what they each see. That's the only way we're going to get an all-round vision. And so my hope is that we learn from each other's perspectives. We all grow in our own perspective as a result, but we don't try to take everybody else's job away from them.
Good afternoon, everyone. Oh, wow. Okay, so that was just the extroverts. Let's invite the introverts into the conversation. Good afternoon, everyone. Fantastic, much better. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for inviting me here. It's an absolute pleasure. I had originally, funny enough, before singing Tim's talk, I had my slides ready. I just made some notes and I'm like, I'm good to go. Then I saw the slides weren't working and I heard what he was talking about and he made me change everything that I was gonna do. So I'm shifting gears completely. So you're gonna have to work with me. So everyone say work with him. Just nudge the person next to you, say work with him. Work with him. Fantastic. So one of my favorite quotes is by a lady called Carla Harris, and she says, "Perception is the co-pilot of reality. Perception is the co-pilot of reality. How people perceive you will ultimately determine how they treat you. How people perceive you will ultimately determine how they treat you." And part of my journey has been thinking about how do I begin to control the perceptions that people have of me by understanding who I am as a person. One of my favorite things that I love to say is that we are multifaceted beings. That sounds so deep, but it actually isn't. It just means that we have a dynamic range of characteristics that make up who we are as individuals. What does that look like on a regular basis? So on a day-to-day basis, I am a husband. It's hard. Marriage is hard, guys. I am a brother. So when I see my brothers, I'm like, yo, what's going on? You at, bro? But I'm also a consultant. I'm also a coach. One of the most important roles that I'm enjoying right now is that I'm a father of 3 amazing young children. But all of those require different aspects of my personality and my identity, and I'm required, oh, the slide's gone, to perform. Yeah, put it back there. Where is it? Where is it? There it is. The art of performance. And so part of that, whether you like it or not, on a regular basis, day to day, you are performing for either an audience of 60 to 70 to 80 people, or for the audience of 1. And so the question is, in that moment, who are you being and who are you choosing to be? Now, part of my journey has been trying to, again, like I said, bring all those identities together into somebody that I call Just Tambo. So if you sort of follow me, that was a slight plug actually, social media, Just Tambo, you can follow me there. And the reason why I say Just Tambo, because I've learned to be comfortable with all those identities and being able to switch perceptions and perspectives depending on who I'm engaging with. Part of my journey has also meant that I've worked with directors from like senior level and executives and all these big banks and branches and even like organizations to working with young people that are not in education or employment, teaching them how to articulate themselves well, but also choosing to be eloquent in the identity that they choose to bring forward. In my early days, if I was going to start this talk, I would start like this. Yo, what's going on, bro? My name's Tambo, pleasure to meet you. Man grew up in South London, so obviously you understand how that goes, innit? You can see man's wearing the trainers, you can see man's wearing the jacket, and obviously all of those elements make up who I am, innit? So you know that I'm really from South London because I don't say South, I say South with an F. You get me? All the South people in the building make some noise. Awesome. Different hat, different perspective, different dynamic, but very true to the identity and the person that I am. Because I did grow up in South London. I did grow up in so I always say my life is the Fresh Prince, but in reverse. So my mom and dad got married, had us, dad did really well, mum was doing well, they got divorced, Africa the way it is, my mum left Zambia to flee my dad, brought us here, and I remember living in a council estate with my auntie, and the first thing that I said to her when I woke up in the morning, I said, Auntie, her name's Auntie Janet, I love her, I said, Auntie J, where are the maids? I want breakfast. She looked at me and she just said, there are no maids, reality check. Complete shift. And part of that meant that growing up in South London, understanding my audience, I had to fit in. I had to understand that obviously if I really wanted to, I'll pull my trousers a bit down here, show that I'm wearing tracksuit bottoms, and then start talking like this, put my hands down my pants, and just be like, yo, yeah, do you know what, fam? It is what it is, you know. Life is hard right now, brother. You see the way taxes and mortgages and that? Nah, that's crazy. What, even talking about mortgage? Man, can't even buy a mortgage, bro. What are you saying? All of it, aspect of my identity. Then what happened is that my mum was really wise. She decided that she was going to take me from South London. I was not going to go to school with all the, I don't want to say ruffians, because there were some really good kids in that environment, in that area, going to that same school with the local boys, and made me take a 45-minute bus from South London all the way to Northwest London. And on that journey, going from South London all the way to Northwest London, I would go first through Vauxhall. Once I got to Vauxhall, I'd go through Victoria. Once I got through Victoria, I would see the gates of Buckingham Palace. Then when I saw Buckingham Palace, I would then see Green Park. Once I saw Green Park, I would then see, what's next? Marble Arch. And then from going to Marble Arch, I'd go all the way down the, what's the word? Edgware Road, fantastic. There's a Londoner in here. Yeah, the 36. Yeah. How did you know that was my route? Yeah. Literally took the 36 bus. That 36 bus allowed me to understand and see the world in a different way. Because through my 45-minute to an hour journey, I'd see kids that didn't look like me, that went to all the best schools, with their mums and their dads jumping on their bus, talking slightly different, but living the life that I used to live and the life that I wanted to get to. Which meant that I then had to change my perception and change the reality of it. Because I did go to a community school. I'll then go to Edgware Road, loads of different ethnicities, groups, people. And then when I got to school, I saw other kids that were just like me. I was like, Mom, this didn't work. But ultimately, what it did do was that journey every single day began to shift my perception and my perspective on life. Why I said Tim made me change my talk was simply because we start at perception and we end at perspective, but we live a life in perception thinking that we have perspective. Does that make sense? I wish I could say it again, but it's a one-off, so you recorded it. And so ultimately, from that perspective, what we need to begin to realize are where the moments where we're living in perception when we should be living in perspective. Because that's where the bias kicks in regards to perception. I know that person. And here's where the science comes in. So my background's in behavioral science and performing arts. I'll tell you more of the journey. Went to uni. I decided that I was going to be a music mogul. I wanted to find an artist like Stormzy or Adele, manage the heck out of them, make loads of money, and be dancing their music videos like, yo. That didn't happen. Got into performing arts, loved performing arts, loved theater, loved the stage, loved people, and understood that that's where my gifts and my passions were. So when I think about that in regards to the journey that I've been on, thinking about perception, perspective, bringing all those identities together, it's imperative that we then, I'm thinking about, my story's gone into two ways. I'm like, do I tell that story? I'm not going to tell that story. But ultimately, we bring those identities together in a way that allows us to see the world differently. How are you viewing the world? How are you viewing yourself? So, the science part behind it. The most common study that's brought them together is Albert Morabian. If you know Albert Morabian, let me say I. No. Fantastic. So there was this guy, there was a gentleman called Albert Morabian who did two very different studies. The first study was around divorced couples. And divorced couples going through divorce, and all he did was monitor their body language, how they engaged, how they watched, and he was a counselor, just observing their behavior, observing their mannerisms. And he was like, that's interesting. Did a second study, and the second study was around pubescent individuals, so going through puberty, teenagers, thinking about how they communicate and what does language actually look like, the way that they use language. Two studies brought them together. People can say that they bastardized the studies, which made us have these body language statistics. The body language statistics that you see all over the place are 55, 38, and 7%. Loads of people say, to be fair, here's the caveat. Nobody has done any other study around body language. So most people, when you go on YouTube, they start talking about 55% of communications body language, 38% is tone of voice, and 7% other words. That's what people say. Ultimately, the study hasn't been conclusive, but we go by those statistics because body language says a lot. There's another study, which one of my favorites actually, was Princeton study that was done by a professor called Todorov, and this was in 2007-8, around about that time. And the study looked at speed of judgment. How long does it take for somebody to come to a perception of an individual when they see them for the first time? The common misconception that people say, give me the number, what is it? 3 seconds, 4 seconds, 7 seconds. It's actually 0.5 seconds. In 0.5 seconds, your perception kicks in and you make a judgment. And you are judging people on attractiveness, whether you think they're attractive. Thank you, guys. Likability, danger or threat, competence, and honesty. You see that in 0.5 seconds, Google it, fantastic study, read it. If you've got Notebook LM, put it in Notebook LM, it will tell you everything that you need to know. You then be able to see that you make that instant like that, 0.5 seconds. Like, let's try and click again. No, that failed. But there you go, thank you, Lucy. See, that's why you're still my favorite person. Yeah. So ultimately, from that perspective, you make a judgment. Glasgow University heard of this study and they were like, this is crazy, this is amazing, we're going to do the exact same study. They boiled it down to 1/10 of a second. That's when somebody walks into the room. Princeton University was an image, walking into the room 1/10 of a second, because you can smell, you can see the person, you can hear their voice, all of that stuff. And so when I found that out, I was like, the first milliseconds are important. And then there was another study that talks about employability, that brings it together, and it looks like how long do people take for them to make a decision about you where they will not change their mind? They've met you, they've engaged with you, given a fantastic talk, oh my gosh, you're amazing. How long do you think it is? Give me a shout. A month, less than that. A week, less than that. 10 minutes, a bit more than that. 15 minutes. Well done. Yeah, awesome. After 15 minutes, when somebody sees you, most likely that they won't change their mind about you unless you do something else. There's a study called observed performance, and we can talk about that, but that's a whole different talk. But ultimately what we're saying is that all of life is a stage and we are merely players. Thank you, Shakespeare. And so out on that journey, we need to recognize who are we choosing to be in the moment. So I'm going to give you some hacks. I'm going to give you some really quick tips that you can work on that allow you to control your own perception, give you confidence, and allow people to see you in a positive light. The only caveat to this is if people have deep-rooted, entrenched biases, that's very hard. That is the truth. However, there's still some stuff you can do. If you could give up my lovely assistant, please give it up for Tom, please. Well done, Tom. Thank you so much. Awesome. Fantastic. Ladies and gents, this is Tom. I literally grabbed him over there and I said, you're taller than me, so I'm going to grab Tom. How are you feeling?
Nervous.
Nice. Okay, love that. We use that energy. So part of the journey is actually understanding that 55%, that body language piece. So we've seen what it looks like when you present, but in those moments, what body language looks like is very important. As you can see, Tom is standing there, very tall. What I'm going to do is make Tom grow probably about an inch, and he's not even going to wear heels. Yeah, I know, right? You ready? All right, cool. Everyone take a mental screenshot, and literally just go snap, and then close your eyes. All right, close your eyes. Don't worry, I'm not going to go through your pockets. I left South London. We're good. Do me a favor.
You're in Liverpool.
Yeah, I am in Liverpool. Awesome. Bring your legs closer together. Nice. What I want you to do is shoulders. Rotate. Lift up your shoulders. Rotate back. Drop them there. Elongate your neck. Stand tall. Lift up your chest just a little bit. Drop your chin. Okay, cool. Open your eyes. He said, it's 2 inches. Nice. Cool. If you think Tom looks different, let me hear you say aye. Aye. Why does he look different? He looks confident, his posture, his arms are down. That, ladies and gentlemen, is performance. And all Tom did is, Tom, just relax again. Yeah. He grew. I always say the problem is with most individuals, we play it small when we should be standing at our tallest height. I think one of my favorite quotes, I'm going to mess it up, it's Nelson Mandela, is that we are afraid of how great we actually truly are. And by standing at your tallest height, immediately, look at that. He is tall, isn't it? Jeez. You actually see the difference in regards to his energy, his height, and his confidence, and he doesn't have to say anything. 0.5 seconds. You walk into a room. You can disappear and be a wallflower, and I love you wallflowers, that's absolutely fine. Or you could find a position in the room, stand tall and just wait. See who's drawn to you, see who's drawn to, maintain that eye contact, maintain that energy, while still maintaining that confidence. Ladies and gentlemen, please give it up for Tom. More than amazing. So, the performance. Let me check my notes, because I changed it a little bit. Let me see. Okay, cool, awesome, we'll do that. So when we're thinking about what the art of performance looks like, that's exactly it. It starts with that 55% or that body language. The next is tone of voice. I always laugh. I was doing a session once, right? This is so crazy. This shows I'm getting old. I mentioned Barry White. Please tell me you know who Barry White is. Thank you. So I was in a session and I was like, oh yeah, you know, like Barry White. And everyone looked at me like, who the hell is Barry White? For those of you who do not know who Barry White, he's that man with the deep voice, my darling. Like, so I remember, who remembers the 5-day pass? Anyone as old as me? 5-day pass. You'd pay £5 and then you get £5 like unlimited calls and texts for 5 days on the 3210, the Nokia. Yeah, remember. I remember I used to use 5-day pass. And one of the things that I used to do when using 5-day pass is obviously I'd call girls. I'd be like, hi. So, but when you're on the phone, you're not gonna be like, hi, how are you? You're gonna be, yo, what's going on? You all right? Yeah. Obviously, I got 5-day pass, innit? Yeah, don't worry, I'm calling you, it's coming out of my minutes. So, ultimately, that was me trying to put my voice down here. Trying to create some sort of resonance, some kind of depth, because there are studies that say that men with deeper voice are 10 times more likely to be listened to, which is really strange. However, there's also a part of your voice that carries resonance, roundness, and a tone that people want to hear. And how you discover that is very simple. Are you willing to do an exercise with me? Yeah. Extroverts, again, they loved it. Introverts, I'm sorry, you're gonna have to join in. Is that all right? So, literally, really simple exercise. You put your hand on your chest, and what I want you to do is hum so that you're able to feel the vibrations of your hand. So when you go, fantastic. Sounds like we're in a monastery. I love it. Nice. So when you do that, what that does is that it allows you to find the emotional frequency. Everyone say the emotional frequency. I was doing some work with the NHS and some doctors, and one of the things that I taught them to do, which it's actually understanding how to feel empathy in order for it to come first from your voice and your diaphragm, and then deliver news that resonates and connects with people. So whenever I decide that I'm gonna have a deep moment, what happens is that I drop my voice just a little bit, I begin to talk here, and it's slightly lower, the cadence is clearer, but there's a bit more empathy and emotion. I slow down my tone, I slow down my presence, and I ensure that I connect with the individual. What happens is that intuitively, us as humans are naturally connected. That emotion rings true, and that sincerity comes through. So that's one way that I do it. And especially when I use this voice most of the times when I'm having a challenging conversation with my wife, or I'm about to tell my kids off. I'm like, I'm having a picture of him now. It's like, Daddy, what time are you coming home? I'm like, yo, Theo, I'm on a call. Give me a moment. That seriousness, that tone is heard. But then also what happens is there's a second part to your voice. Now, are you ready? Next part. So what I want you to do, put your finger on your nose. And I want you to hum again, but this time try and make your nose vibrate. Does it make sense? So, I've got 5 minutes. Fantastic. Everybody should sound differently, because that's where your joy and your emotions fly from. So when you're thinking about, when I really want to get excited, when I really want to project, this is the way I sound. My voice is carrying through. I can feel a bit of tingling in my nose. I can feel it in my face. The energy is there. I'm like, yo, this is it. And that really makes me excited. There's a clarity, and you can hear every single emotion and intonation in my tone. But that's just about understanding your own frequency. We talk about frequency and vibrations. Understanding your frequency, understanding your vibrations, and knowing that your voice is an instrument. Make sense? So we talked about the 55%, which is body language, standing tall, standing clear, standing confident. We talked about the voice, how you're able to use the voice from deep emotion to excitement and the joy that where it sits. And most of the time we sit in between that. And being able to flex between all the elements of deep emotion to high resonance and excitement is where you become really good at connecting with people. And then the final part, from my perspective, which I enjoy the most, which it says it's got the least, is 7%. Words. That's 7%. How do you communicate confidence and competence? By the words that you choose. And all that requires is two things. If I was to give two golden rules when it comes to using words: speak less, listen more, and always ask for clarification. Speak less, listen more, ask for clarification. The reason why you ask for clarification is because you're able then to repeat back what's been said to you, and the person listening then really knows that you heard them. One of my favorite phrases that I always use whenever I'm consulting, whether I'm coaching, I would say, what I heard you say is, and then I'll repeat back the statement. Am I correct in that? The moment that I say that, they either say yes or no. If I'm correct, I'm like, fantastic, here are my thoughts. If it's no, okay, tell me, what did I get wrong? And being able, some people call it parrot the individual who's speaking, actually shows connection and that you intentionally listen to what they're saying. So when we begin to think about the art of performance is not just for big audiences, but actually mastering the art of individual one-to-one communication and actually just engaging with human beings. The bit that I did keep from my original talk was the goal to become a better performer is to perfect the person you want to present to the world. The goal to become a better performer is to perfect the person you want to present to the world. That's number one. And then number two, the greatest gift you can give yourself is accepting who you are and choosing that you can be better. That's my favorite. My whole journey was choosing to be better. Choosing not to conform to stereotypes, but actually paving a way where I can then begin to break the system and just anarchy, I'm joking, break the system and allow people to recognize that there's a human behind this skin, behind these locks, behind these fly night trainers, but that you can connect with anyone that you meet, regardless of where they are in life. Thank you very much.
Fellow Toastmasters, there's some of you among us today that have disgraced the good name of Division N, and today we are about to find out who those people are. The traitors know who they are, and it's up to you as the audience to work it out. We will vote for who you think the traitors are at the end of the round table. There will be two lots of 4 speakers, and there is a traitor amongst them. If the traitor wins, they take the lot. They win the whole prize. Oh my God, is it a prize? Martin, Murderous Martin, I hope you can see me under there. Please tell us what the prize is.
Gold. Gold. Gold, apparently. Lots of gold. Lots of gold for the lucky winner.
Okay, thank you, Martin. So, can we please welcome to the stage Ola, Sid, Roy, and Daniel. You get the... You got the scenarios. So you'll be given a scenario, and it's up to you to either lie, defend yourself, or pin it on somebody else. So please read what's on your card. Give you a few seconds. And we'll start on the left, so if Ola can speak first.
Just last night, I was very interested to get into Liverpool on time. So I needed to take a bold step, get a hotel, booked ahead. Boom. Got a train ticket, ticked. And I got myself all the way to this great, lovely city, Liverpool, where it is in my heart. You never walk alone. For those Liverpool fans in the room, like my lovely friend, we know what I'm saying. But as you know, coming into this great, lovely city, I felt lonely. And I needed to find my good friend, Roy, who is just standing behind me. You all can see him, right? Roy, where are you? There he is, smiling and gasping. He was in the mood to take some drinks. Well, I said to myself, am I really feeling like drinking? But there's no crime. If you're in Liverpool and you've not had some good drinking moments, you're not here to have fun. So tonight, or this evening, we all are going to the pub after this Toastmasters event.
Thank
So
you.
as you know, thank you.
Roy. Please speak.
Thank you. Well, well, well. Here I am. I have a confession to make. Some information has come to me that will shock you more than it even shocked me. Because one of my companions on the stage, in an effort to win, in an effort to win favoritism, Daniel slept with one of the judges. And I have evidence. Because I was in the wardrobe. And so, friends, I say to you, it's not suspicion. I'm an eyewitness to criminal intent to thwart other members in this competition. And I say to you, do not trust this man.
You are the traitor? Or am I? Nice table topics, guys. So let me just tell you a story. There's some kid who grew up in one country, right? And he was not that great in studies. All his school teachers always looked down upon him, knowing that he's not that great in studies, so he might not be good in other things. That is table topics, communication, sports. So I always had that in mind. But as he grew up and he saw and learned about the different heroes' journey, he knew that he can transform himself. He can flip the script and transform himself from being that kid who did not feel confident in his school or classroom and missed so many opportunities competing in annual events and was just restricted to be a tree. But he decided, no, he's going to flip the script, and that whole person started becoming the divisional contest winner, started a successful company, etc. So I'll let you take a guess.
All these three look like suspicious individuals. I have narrowed it down to Roy. Such treacherous behavior. I spoke to him in confidence of what I was trying to do, and he sold me out. That's so untrustworthy. So I just leave that there.
So we will now vote who you think the traitor is. Hands up for Ola. Okay. Roy. Okay. Sid. Okay. And Daniel. Interesting. Okay, well, via absolute landslide, Roy has been nominated. Can you please reveal, are you a faithful or are you a traitor?
I'm actually faithful.
Okay, so that means the traitor has won. Please sit down. Thank you. No, you'll never know. So, the next lot of people, please. Do you want to read them? Let's go, Tom. Rob. Five, 6, 7, and 8.
Rob, Maria, Carolina,
Tom.
Tom.
Okay, you got the papers, yeah? Okay, whenever you're ready.
How do I?
Just hold it. Just hold
Right, okay. Can everyone hear me okay? Right, so the speech, my speech, is based upon a show that I've never seen before and an impromptu speech was never done before. What could possibly go wrong? I believe in times like this, we need to keep it simple, stupid. Kiss. Satcha. Kiss. Lucy, here's a kiss for you as well. Keep it simple, stupid. Does anyone know where keep it simple, stupid come from? What the origin of that phrase is? Comes from the 1960s and a military aircraft program in the United States. And the lead engineer who was working for this company said every military plane they built had to be fixed in the field by an average engineer using an average set of tools. Keep it simple, stupid. So they can't be over-engineered, it's got to be serviced later on. So that's the origin of that. Anyway, so I believe, keep it simple, stupid, I'm not the traitor, but I'll let you decide. I think you'll find that one of this lot is much more dodgy than I am. Chair.
Let me tell you a little story here, because last night I was just doing my work. I can't sleep without the work. And I heard something. And one of these three people were there saying that I'm the traitor and I don't want anyone to find out. And the traitor is him. This is what I heard last night. Yes, I was just walking and I heard his voice. I'm the traitor and no one will find out. So please, let's just punish him forever. He's just hiding in plain sight. And yes, he should be banished because he's the traitor. Thank you so much.
It's interesting she says that. Because last night, I was seen sneaking through the corridors. And yes, she did hear me. That is very correct. That is because I was sneaking out of her room. She was apparently working. So indeed, I was out in the corridors. And indeed, she did hear me. But she also saw me as I left the corridor. So, if I'm a traitor or not, doesn't matter. There's my alibi.
Well, well, well. They all trying to fool you. They are all trying to look innocent, blame others. Well, even think in simple terms. Well, Mr. Rob, it's easy to just say, oh, I'm just not a traitor, I'm faithful. I am, it's all about keeping it simple and kisses. No, to the audience, I'll kiss you, I'll kiss you, and I'll kiss you. That is very, very clever. But I will not point a finger, but I think you all know what I'm getting at and who is a traitor among this group.
Thank you. We shall now vote who you think the traitor is. Hands up for Rob. Maria? Oh, Tom? Okay. And Carolina? Oh, okay. Okay, looks like Carolina has been voted. So can you please reveal if you're a faithful or a traitor?
It was a pleasure being here in front of you. I hope you all enjoyed it as much as I did. And I have to reveal that from the start of this meeting, I have been a faithful.
Thank you very guys. That's it. Okay. So in the middle of the night, murderous Martin has been planning who to murder, and he will now reveal who he has murdered. Go.
They're all a little bit bad at this. Tooth Faithful's gone. Out of 2 attempts. Never mind about there being traitors on stage. Maybe there's some traitors in the audience. People are about to die. Rob. Sid. By order of the traitors, you have been murdered.
Okay, so as the traitors won both rounds, can we please reveal who the traitors were in each group? There may have been more than one.
Stand up, guys.
Stand up. Okay, so as the traitors won, they win all the prizes, and you literally do win a bar of gold. So please come and collect your prize.